We were on page number 67, middle of the Yes, middle of the third last paragraph. So he says, blindly and instinctively, he handed over the child to the nurse because he felt that the child was, maybe lifeless. So the mother needed more attention. So, and he turned his attention to Susan Morgan, who now lay collapsed, almost pulseless. She was losing life and not yet out of the ether. Even the effect of the chloroform, ether is chloroform, the effect of chloroform was also there upon her side. His haste was desperate. What do you understand by haste? The urgency, the way in which he did everything, it was desperate, a frantic race against her ebbing strength. She was losing her strength, was declining. She was losing strength with each passing moment. It took him only an instant to smash a glass ampule and inject the medicine. So he just broke off the ampule, the injection, and he just injected the medicine inside her veins. Then he flung down the hypodermic syringe. Then he just threw it and worked unsparingly to restore the flaccid woman. What is flaccid? Flappy. Weak. She had become very weak and soft, and she was just lying unconscious without having, as if she didn't have life inside her. After a few minutes of feverish the kind of efforts that he put in, they were feverish. They were desperate efforts. He worked very hard. He was sweating profusely. Her heart strengthened. She regained her strength. He saw that he might safely leave her. It was at that time that he felt that now it is the time to look at the child. The mother would be all right, and he now paid his attention towards the child. He swung around in his shirt sleeves, his hair sticking to his damp brow, sweating all over. Where's the child? The midwife made a frightened gesture. And what had the midwife done? She was so foolish, a lady. She had placed the child beneath the bed on newspapers because she had thought the child had died. It was a lifeless child, so she had placed it beneath the bed. In a flash, Andrew knelt down. He didn't have time to scold the midwife. He just knelt down, he picked up the child, fishing amongst the sodden newspapers. Sodden means wet, damp newspapers below the bed. He pulled out the child, a boy perfectly formed. So it was a male child, perfectly formed child, but the body was limp. It was motionless, but it was still warm, was white and soft as tallow. What is tallow? It's the meaning is given in the glossary. It's the hard fat of animals melted and used to make soap and candles. So it was very white. The body was very white and very soft. The cord, which cord are we talking about here? The umbilical cord. It was hastily cut. It lay like a broken stem. The skin was of a lovely texture, smooth and tender. The head lolled on a thin neck. The head was just lying on one side because it appeared as if it was not having any life. So the limbs seemed boneless. Even the arms and legs were just hanging out. Got it? Still kneeling, Andrew stared at the child with a haggard frown. So, he didn't know what to do with the child. He just kept on staring at him. The whiteness meant only one thing. He was a doctor by profession. He had read a lot. And even though he was not experienced, but he had read and he had witnessed many things. So he knew it that this whiteness meant asphyxia pallida. And this is a medical term which means suffocation or unconscious condition because of lack of oxygen and excess of carbon dioxide in the blood. So this was the medical condition that the child was suffering from, accompanied by paleness of the skin, weak pulse, and loss of reflexes. So this was the medical condition, asphyxia pallida. He knew it at once when he looked at the whiteness of the texture of the child's skin. He knew it that it was the case of asphyxia pallida, and his mind, unnaturally tense, naturally, it was tensed. It raced back to a case that he once had seen in the Samaritan, to the treatment that had been used. He had never, because he'd just come out of the medical college. This was maybe his first case, but he had witnessed a similar case, and at once his mind rushed back to that case. Okay, and instantly he was on his feet. He knew the kind of treatment that would be required at this point of time, and he ordered the nurse. He said, "Get me hot water and cold water and basins also. Quick, quick." He just asked her to rush out and get two basins, one filled with hot water and another one filled with cold water. Got it? So, but the doctor, she is, she is just a midwife. She's not even educated enough. And she just faltered and she was just trying to stop him. And she just said, um, uh, she just wants to say that the child is lifeless. No, why are you, being disrespectful to the lifeless body? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to prove? So, but doctor, and he just shouted at her and he said, "Quick!" Snatching a blanket, he laid the child upon it and he began the special method of respiration. Then the basins arrived, the ewer, the big iron kettle. Frantically, what is frantically? It is frantically. Frantically? Quickly, desperately, he splashed cold water into one basin. He put cold water into one of the basins and into the other he mixed water as hot as his hand could bear. ठीक है दूसरे में उसने बेसिन में उसने इतना गर्म पानी डाला जितना उसका हाथ टॉलरेट कर सके. So one was filled with cold water, another one, the second one was filled with hot water. Then, like some crazy juggler, who's a juggler? Who's a juggler? वो जगलर वो जो हाँ बोलो बोलो नकुल बोलो वो yes, who juggles balls, who shows some tricks, a kind of a magician, So, like a juggler, like a crazy juggler, what did he do? He hurried the child between the two basins. एक बार ठंडे पानी में उसको डाला, एक बार गर्म में. Now plunging it into the icy, now into the steaming bath. ठीक है, एक बार बिल्कुल cold water में, उसके बाद एकदम से निकाल के गर्म पानी में, फिर दोबारा cold में. This was the kind of treatment that he had witnessed, that he had himself seen once in a similar case of asphyxia pallida. So he opted the same treatment and he did it. 15 minutes passed. 15 मिनट अब लगातार वो पागलों के जैसे बॉडी को जगल करता रहा. Sweat was now running into Andrew's eyes. आंखों में उसके पसीना आ गया था. It was blinding him. The sweat was blinding him. जैसे आंखें बंद हो रही हैं उसकी, वो खोल नहीं पा रहा, देख नहीं पा रहा. And one of his sleeves hung down, dripping. ठीक है, उसकी बाजुएं, जो शर्ट है उसकी, वो भी मतलब पसीने से भीगी हुई है. His breath came pantingly. He was breathing very heavily. बहुत जोर जोर से सांस ले रहा था. But no breath came from the lax body of the child. So the body of the child was still the same. It was motionless and it was relaxed. No breath came out of the child's body. Got it? So you can just put a mark here. We'll continue from here tomorrow and also discuss the question.